Welcome to the Peak Impact Mentorship, your personal partner for growth. If you're here for the very first time, I would encourage you to subscribe to our channel because this will be a transformational year for you. It's a series we started close to 5 months back, and the mission was that 2020 should be an year of transformation if you are serious about your journey. So when we are at the verge, today when we are talking to you, we are close to 2 more days to bid adieu to 2019. So I was reflecting my entire year, that how 2019 went, and I was reflecting my entire career. I started my career in 2002, and today when we are at the verge of getting into 2020, it is 18 long years after me passing out from my college. And in that 18 years, I have seen transitions of life. I have been to corporate career for 13 years. I have been to academics in IIT Madras. I have been in entrepreneurship for close to 11 years now. So I have my personal experience to share with you. And on top of it, I'm a voracious reader. I've been following John Maxwell, and I'm a certified coach from John Maxwell team. So following a lot of books and experience. So a time comes when you want to share your experience with people so that it can impact your life. Things which I learned in 10 years or 20 years, if I can pass on that knowledge to you, and if you're in a similar situation, my experience can help you save your time. So that was the whole mission of we starting Peak Impact Mentorship. So what I talked to take today was a topic with almost everyone is scared. The topic is about mistakes. The moment, in fact, if you see a small child, only till he is close to 3 or 4 years, he is not afraid of making mistakes, because that is the time he is pampered. So I have two children. One of my son is 3-year-old, and another son of mine is close to 9 years now. So when I see my 9-year-old son, if he makes any mistake, he is scared, because he knows if he makes mistake, he has to be accountable. People ask him questions, so he's scared about his mistakes. Whereas if I see my 3-year-old son, I see he's not scared about his mistakes. He does a mistake and he is happy because he doesn't know what is mistake and what is not a mistake. So when we are adult, when I'm talking to you, I assume you are at least 18 years old. And when I'm talking to you, you are actually scared of mistakes. So that's the biggest mistake we make about our mistakes. So I thought, why don't I start this lesson with few mistakes which I did in my career, in my entrepreneurship journey. I could have found actually hundreds of mistakes, but I thought, let me just keep 6 or 7 mistakes which I did during my entrepreneurship career. That can help you. The first mistake which I made in my life was I wanted to make everybody happy. Isn't it what happens? All of us have a desire to be in good books, in good records of people. And what happens? We try to make everybody happy. When I started my entrepreneurship career, I wanted that everybody should be supporting me and my mission and my idea. And I was surprised that most of them did not had a clue what I want to do and why I want to do. So then I realized one lesson I learned was, if you need people, you cannot lead people. That's a good line you can remember. I repeat again, if you need people, you cannot lead people. That's the first lesson I learned and the mistake I made. Second mistake which I wanted to talk to about is, see, when you're young, when you're 30, that time you feel you can conquer the whole world. You feel the world is at your feet, and that's the time you feel you can accomplish everything. The second mistake I realized of my entrepreneurship career and my career was relying too much on yourself. And let me tell you, no matter how big we are, no matter how talented we are, one is too small a number for achieving anything significant. Remember. So, what is the lesson learned? The lesson learned is a great dream needs a great team. It means if you have something real significant dream, you need a team. Regarding this, I'll tell you, last weekend I was in Istanbul and there was a live show by Sonu Nigam. And I spent some time with his crew members. So we are in lift, and during dining hall time, I was spending some time with them, and I tried to understand how big is the team of Sonu Nigam And you will be surprised, I realized he have a team of more than 85 people. And then I realized Sonu Nigam is a singer. But to make sure that his singing is accustomed rightly with a lot of other things, he needed 85 people. And I was really humbled. And this lesson which I learned, I actually got a testimony of it, that a great dream needs a great team. That's the second mistake I made. Third mistake which I made was, see, when again you're young, what do you want? You want all the credit, all the recognition on your head. Correct or not? So what happens? We are insecure. We don't want to give our ideas to people. We want to hide things in the closet. No, let people do not know it. If anything happens, it's me. I have done it. And that's what I would say. It's a young age immaturity. And by the time you go bigger and you realize, it doesn't matter. What matters is, if the team and the dream is succeeding, it doesn't matter who gets the credit. Easy to say, difficult to do. So lesson learned, if I start anything nowadays, the first thing I start asking myself, when can I come out of this job? And that always gives me a mindset, I need to equip people. Why? For a simple reason. What if I die tomorrow of an accident? What happens to my dream? What happens to my vision? It means if I don't equip people and anything, everything will die with me. That's a lesson you learn when you're 50. Now I'm almost 41 and thank God I've learned this lesson by the age of 35 and I started empowering people. I can tell you, when I started my entrepreneurship journey in 2008, till 2019 we are talking about, it is 11 long years. And in my 11 long years, I have gone through 3 different phases. Phase 1 was when you struggle to succeed. Phase 2, you succeed. And then in phase 3, your success take a back gear and you plateau and you stagnate, and then you learn this lesson. So what I mean to say, until you go to success, then fall from success, you will never learn this lesson. So this lesson of equipping people, you always learn in the valleys. But what I have found is during your valley, you do not have the courage to accept it. Thank God I accepted it and I equipped people. And from there on, my business started growing. The fourth lesson which I learned was a very simple lesson. I was too narrow in my perspective. Typically it happens, right? If you're confident, you believe the way I think, that's the right way to think. All other ways are wrong way. You know, that's a line. If either you are with me or you are against me. There is no in-between line. And that's what happens typically. And I have gone through that phase also. So what is the lesson learned? Lesson learned, great leaders build great organization in many different ways. It means I can reach to one particular place in multiple ways. Is it really a difficult lesson to learn, by the way? But let me tell you, easy to listen, easy to say yes, but when you really face the situation, it will be very difficult to apply. And that is what I am sharing my mistakes first, because these were the mistakes I made. Fifth mistake I made was I failed to become a team player. And that is connected with my second error, by the way. Why do we don't become a team player? Because we believe we are the great, we are the big sort people, and that's what typically happens. And we believe we are something great. And I realized when I withhold from others, life withholds from me. That's very, very important. It means you have to become a team player. Without a team, you cannot become successful. The last lesson, and this is something which will be a big lesson. If you are successful right now, listen this line very carefully. Most of the people who have accomplished a Nobel Prize has not done anything much significant after that, majorly. It means relying on our past success. And what I realize, many times we achieve some success and then we think we can rely on our brand, we can rely on our talent. And my mentor always says me, Bijay, remember, your past success can only help you in the beginning. After that, if you don't deliver what you promised, You lose your brand, you lose your credibility. That's a great lesson. So lesson learned, shortcuts don't pay off in long run. So these are my 6 mistakes. So I have summarized my mistake. Now let me tell you what is the biggest mistake most of us do about a mistake. I'll just talk two perspectives. The first mistake which most of us do is we perceive mistakes in a wrong way. What does it mean? It means very simple. We take mistake not as a feedback, but we take mistake as a failure. That's a big challenge. Because we take mistake as a failure, we are actually scared. We don't want to admit. Right there, mistakes are a feedback. See, I did certain mistakes. My business grew and then it fell down. I understood some mistakes. So why do you worry? It's okay. Let me take it as feedback. Change, transform, move on. I did it. Second thing, because we see mistakes in the wrong way, we despise them, isn't it? And let me tell you, all great success, all great history, all great research has been done on certain mistakes only. When my business grew and it fell down, and when I started working on myself, then my business grew again in a huge manner because I took this as a feedback. So third mistake, because our perceive is different, we perceive it in a different way, we take things as personal. We take it as a personal failure. It's not personal failure. What is personal, man? That's how you learn in life. Take lesson, move on. And if we see mistakes as personal failure, we'll always be worried about them. So, first is we perceive it wrongly. Second error we do about a mistake is we respond to the mistake in a wrong manner. What does it mean? It means first we fail to admit. And I have realized 2011 and 12, when I started leading big organizations, I started realizing if I do an error, no point in covering up. Let me accept it. I'm sorry, it was a mistake and we'll never do that blunder again. It helps. Trust me, it helps. Second thing, because most of the time we don't accept it, so what happens? We don't learn anything from it. So if we accept it, we will obviously learn from it. And it is necessary for us as a team player that if we want to succeed, we need to accept our mistakes. So this is the first thing we can do. So what are the conclusions of these mistakes? First conclusion, we must be big enough. We must be really big enough to accept our mistakes. Second thing, we must be smart enough to benefit from our mistakes. And third, most important thing is we must be disciplined enough to correct them. These are the three things. So that's what we started from. And if you have not subscribed our channel yet, I would again encourage, click on the subscribe button so that you do not miss anything thrilling. Now I'll talk about 12 different mistakes which any leader or any entrepreneur does. And when I say leader, don't worry about it. Leadership do not need a team. Somebody say, man, I don't have a team. What is leadership for me? Leadership is for you, my man. Gentlemen, leadership is for you. Leadership is required if you want to be healthy. Leadership is required. If you want to be a good husband, leadership is required. You want to be a good father, leadership is required. Leadership is nothing but leading yourself first. So if you do not have anybody right now, that means you need leadership lessons more than anybody else. That's the first thing I'll tell you. So I'll talk about 12 mistakes, but just as I told you, I'll give you a 30-second break right now. And what you should do is, I covered my 6 mistakes. See where do you fit in these 6 mistakes. And if you find you are not having any of these mistakes, then I'll tell you, you are in certain hallucinations. And you believe you really are in hallucinations, because these mistakes of mind are related to any individual, at least 1 or 2 you will be. Think upon it, contemplate on it for some time, and I'll come back again in 30 seconds. See you back in 30 seconds. Welcome back, and presently I'm going to talk about certain mistakes which are generic mistakes, which if you are having any aspiration to achieve in your life, these mistakes you have to avoid if you want to become really successful in life. And when I'm saying these mistakes, they are certain generic mistakes which anybody does, and when I'm saying it, I have tremendous expertise in this area because I mentor more than 5,000 plus people. So I have enough sample space to validate that whatever I'm saying has been validated. first biggest mistake which anybody can do, they assume leadership is about perks. But let me tell you, the biggest mistake most of us do is we do not take responsibility. What do I mean by responsibility? John Maxwell always says this: leadership, everything rises and falls on leadership. That's the line he always uses. And I never understood initially what it means. It always means leadership is not about just getting recognition. It's not about getting respect. It is not about getting best parking space. It is not about getting salary. Actually, leadership is when things are not moving, leaders make it happen. And that only comes if you take responsibility. So when I say responsibility, what does it mean? Responsibility means I'm responsible for myself first. And a lot of people come to me and says me, Vijay, you know what? I'm doing a lot of things. My team is not performing the way I want. And I always says them, don't look at anybody else. Just look at yourself. If you as a leader are doing the right things, chances are high the team will perform. But majority of time, the leader do not want to take responsibility, and that's where the problem begins. And if you feel like that, there's a good poem I have given, and I wrote it down. It's by a very famous author, Jules Ormond. He wrote a poem, and it is in a notebook. Open a notebook, and you'll find this poem. Let me go through it. When you get what you want, and the world makes you starve for a day, but you feel the strife within, just go to the mirror and look at yourself and see what that man has to say. For it isn't your parent or your children or your spouse whose judgment upon you must pass. The fellow who really counts most in your life is the one staring back from the glass. He is the fellow to please, never mind all the rest, for he is with you clear to the end. And you pass your most dangerous, difficult test if the man in the glass is your friend. You got to be able to lead yourself. You may fool the whole world down the pathway of life and get pats on your back as you pass, but your final reward will be heartaches and tears if you cheated the men in the glass. Many people have shortcut completely out of picture. A great leader never set himself above his followers except in carrying responsibility, and that becomes quite difficult. So anytime you get confused about leadership, this poem can help you. So leadership is about taking responsibility. The first responsibility is I am responsible for myself. Second responsibility is I am responsible for my people. So anytime, and when I say this line, my teammates don't like it, and they say, this teammate of mine is not good. And I say, then who hired him? And they don't want to listen to this line. So it means, if you are responsible people, why do you bring wrong people in your organization? Either you have a wrong selection process, or there is some problem with you. And that's something which nobody wants to listen, but that's the truth of life. So we are responsible for ourselves, and we are responsible for people. So I'll give a very good story. This story has all the message of this responsibility. There was a senior vice president of a company, and he was fired. So before leaving his company, he has to do the proper knowledge transfer. So the upcoming VP, he met him and he delivered everything, how to pass on the responsibility, whatever was supposed to be transferred, he transferred. And on the final day, he said, my dear friend, now I'm going. Now you have the big battle to win. I'll give you 3 envelopes. And these 3 envelopes, don't open it today. Whenever your first major crisis comes, open the envelope number 1. Don't open before that ever in your life. Promise me you will not do that. This is done. Second envelope you will open when you face the second major crisis. I said, great. And third letter you will open in the third major crisis. And the leader says, what is inside that letter? Well, don't worry. This is the 3 letters I received from the manager who left. And he said, great. So he got into a new position. He was getting good. Everything was going good. Until after 2 years, suddenly he faced a major crisis coming. And he recalled, man, there was a letter he gave me. So he opened the letter number 1. He read the letter number 1. It was only having 2 lines. Blame the previous manager. He said, yeah, makes sense. So he came out of the time. He said, man, it's because the previous manager did not do anything great. So this problem is existing. And he somehow escaped himself. And again, things started going smooth for close to a year. After 1 year, He again found that the problem has become aggravated and there's real crisis in the company. And he recalled again, there is a second letter. He takes out second letter. Second letter, again there's the one line. Blame the system. He said, makes sense. So he blamed, man, the system is not good, we have to change the system. Again, he escaped himself for 1.5 years. By this time, 4 years have gone in the company and he was quite successful. Now the biggest ever crisis came and he said, now what do I do? He remembered there's a third letter. He takes out the third letter and third letter was quite scary. He said, resign and write down the 3 letters for the next manager. Isn't it not what happens when we run away from our responsibilities? It's very easy to blame and very difficult to take responsibility. So this is a first mistake and I would like you to really think upon this mistake because this is not an easy mistake to avoid. Second mistake will go, if you, as I told you, right, Sonu Nigam, I was giving an example here, a team. The second biggest mistake which most of us will do is will not build leadership teams. And it's a very good line. It's in your, it's a law written by John Maxwell in 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. It's a famous book. If at all you want to become an entrepreneur or if you want to become successful in your corporate career, you will need leadership skills. This book is a must. Purchase the book right away, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. Now, I'm not John Maxwell, I don't get paid for it, but I would encourage you to buy this and read it. It will impact your life. In that, there's a law of inner circle. That law says, those closest to you will determine your success. Very important law. Many people don't build leadership team. They build followership team. What does that mean? See, forming a leadership team is not easy. As I told you, right, initially 6 mistakes which I said, when you're quite new, you believe people should listen to me and you believe that is leadership. That's, I would say, a very mature thinking. Leadership doesn't mean that you have a yes man team. If somebody is asking a question to you, doesn't mean that he is against you. And that's what typically happens with most of the new leaders. What they believe, I have given a command, follow it. You are not building a leadership team. You may get temporary success, but I can promise you, my dear friend, in 2 years or 3 years, you will realize you are the star of the movie and you cannot take your team to the next level and you cannot take your career to the next level. You cannot take your company to the next level. So you have to build those teams. And there's a very good quotation written in your notes. Write it down. There is something more powerful. There is something more powerful than anybody, and that is everybody. It's been written by Captain Eddie Renbeck. Then teams. What is team then? So I'll give you 3 to 4 points which a team has. First thing a team has is, team have people of complementary skill. And this is again a very difficult lesson to adapt. Most of us want people exactly like us. But that is not what you want. What you want? People who have better, let's talk about my strengths. Now I am very pathetic in terms of management. I am a great leader by example, but management is my weakest area. So what should I do then? Find somebody who is good in that area. Obviously, a person who is having a leadership personality will not have management personality. So it means I have to adapt and I have to accept people who have management personality, but those who don't have leadership personality. That's fine. So first thing. Second thing, a team needs a common purpose. Let's say I have a team of 20 people and working on a project. 20 people, 20 different ideas, 20 different attitudes. But one thing is for sure, we are all united for one thing, common purpose. That project has to be executed. That mission has to be accomplished. That's very, very important. Third thing. So whenever anybody comes new in my team, and I start seeing him that potential is there, he can be the next leader in my organization, I recommend these 5 books. Note down the name, and if you really want to succeed, these 5 books can really be transformational, and they had been my transformational, and that's why I chose to become a John Maxwell coach. All of them are by John Maxwell. First book I recommend, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. Second, talent is never enough. Typically it happens, confident people limit their success just because they rely on their talent too much. Third thing, Developing the Leader Within You, version 2.0, an amazing book. And first version was launched long time back. I think 2 years back they launched the latest version, Developing the Leader Within You, version 2.0. Fourth book is 15 Laws of Growth. Unbelievable book. This book you read, it will tear you apart. Those 15 laws of growth can actually take you to the next level in your life. And the last one, most important, leadership is all about communication. So you need a book on communication as well. And my favorite is Everyone Communicate, Few Connect. None of these books are mine, so when I'm promoting, I'm not going to make any money out of it. But you know what? It doesn't matter whether I make money or not. What matters is you become successful. So go through these 5 books. They will be really transformational for you. And 2020 can be a great year if you can complete these 5 books thoroughly. Then, third thing which a team needs is a team hold themselves mutually responsible or accountable rather. Let me tell you what I mean. Let's say I start some goal personally. I can quit it, right? Let's say I have a mission of weight management. If I'm doing it for myself, what will happen? I will give up in between. Now imagine I'm a leader and I take responsibility. Okay, 30 people has to become healthy. Now what happens? Can I quit my goal? No. That's very, very important. So team can actually increase your tenacity power. Very amazing thing, you know. And I can tell you one interesting thing about this. You always equip people with their strength, and you counsel people on their weakness. Actually, people do opposite. They want to equip people on their weaknesses and counsel them on their strength. That is horrible, my dear friend. And let me tell you, take some time to digest this concept. It's not easy. When I say this line, that equip people on their strength and counsel people on their weakness, I have seen it with my own eyes. Every day this crime happening that people do exactly opposite. And needless to say, team's potential is drastically fallen down because of this. And so what I do, I always sit together. I try to understand his personality. What is his personality? For that I can recommend you one more book. See, if you go through my webinars, one thing is for sure, I'll recommend you 5-6 books every time. Personality Plus by Florence Littauer. It talks about 4 personalities, and I'll talk about it some other day, but that book can help you to understand your personality and the strength of your team. Then, and I will end you this 6 points on this topic of team. It is these 6 points I read in this book by Gene Wilkes. He has written a very famous book, Jesus on Leadership. And I found these 6 to 7 points which he mentioned. I thought it is worth giving to you. It is in your notes. Go through your notes and you'll find it out. Teams involve more people, thus affording more resources to you, ideas to you, and energy to you. First point. Second point, he says, team maximizes a leader's potential and minimizes its weakness, because weakness and strengths are more clearly visible in individual person, but in a team they can be covered up quite easily. Third thing he says, team provides multiple perspectives. But remember, if you are not a good leader, you will try to kill all these perspectives and you will lose the creativity of a team. Fourth thing he says, individual insight is seldom broad and deep in groups when it takes on problem. It means whenever a problem comes, if 10 people put their head into it, it will be solved in a matter of 1 hour. Then teams, this is very, very important point. Read it slowly. Team shares the credit for victories and blame for the losses. This fosters genuine humility and accountability in a community. Individuals takes credit for success and blame alone. Problem with this is, if you're successful, you become arrogant, and if you become failure, it creates your sense of failure and it becomes a disaster for you. Then team keeps, as I told you, right? Team keeps a leader accountable. And the last point he says, team can simply do more than individual. Have I convinced you enough that no matter how talented you are, you need a team to build a dream? And I'll tell you, this was an interview by a sports star. Her name is Wilma Rudolph. She was a sprint runner in 19th century. And she has won 3 gold medals. So in one of the interview, she was asked one question. Out of the 3 gold medals, which was your most favorite? And she said, it's a very easy question to answer. I said, which one? She said, the relay race which I ran with my Tennessee team, the Tiger Belt team of Tennessee, that was my memory prize. They said, why? Because that was the only victory which I could celebrate. All other victories were my individual victories. Whom do I celebrate with? So it means happiness and joy always comes with a team. So I've given you now 2 mistakes. Take again 30-second break and try to understand, contemplate, and then I'll come back again after 30 seconds for you and I'll talk 2 more mistakes. See you back. Now let me take you 2 more mistakes. Then again we'll take a break of 30 seconds, and if time permits, I'll take you to one more. The third mistake which most of the people will do in their life is they have a limiting attitude. When they say limiting attitude, what does that mean? That means there are 3 things in a limiting attitude. Number 1, negative thinking. Most important, negative thinking. Number 2, an unwillingness to change. And number 3, selfishness. Very, very big disaster. If you can overcome these 3 mistakes, it will change your life. So let me talk about first one. I recently did a webinar on this topic on possibility thinking, and I would encourage you see the link below in the YouTube, this video, you'll see a link below where I have mentioned this link, which was done I think 3-4 weeks back. I did a very interesting webinar on the topic of possibility thinking. You should definitely go through it, and I'll provide you the worksheet also. If you need, let me know, I'll provide you. And in that I'm talking about it, so I'll not go into detail, but I'll give you one interesting poem, and I am a person of poems, so I'll give you another good poem. Go through it, it is in your notebook. The poem is very interesting. The poem says, "The man who misses all the fun is he who says it can't be done." Isn't it true? In great pride he stands alone, and he greets each venture with sarcasm and skepticism. If he had the power, he would erase the history of human race. And we'd have no mobile phones, no cars, no street lit by electricity, or no mobile phones, nothing, no aeroplanes, and we could have been still in the Stone Age if the world would have been led by those people who said it can't be done. And this has been written by a very famous author, William A. Bennett, The Book of Virtues. This poem, read it, it's an amazing thing, and to understand this in detail, you should go through my previous webinar, it will help you. This is most important. The second limiting attitude is unwillingness to change. What does that mean? John Maxwell's recent book, I think it was published last year, powerful book, Leader Shift. In the first chapter he talks about change, and trust me, it's a mind-blowing chapter. This itself can be a lesson. If I want to do a lesson, I can do the lesson only on one chapter. But to make it small, let me give you a simple perspective. In that book he talks about this time in 1980s when I was born. That point in time, the world was, long-term plan was 10 years, 20 years, isn't it? Today we are talking about long-term plan, 2 years. Short-term plan, 3 months, 6 months. Problem with most of people is the adapting time itself is 5 years. And that's the reason companies do not want senior people majority times. Let me tell you, age is not decided by your actual biological age. The day you are unwilling to change, you are old. I've seen people at the age of 20 who are old, and I've seen at the age of 60 people who are young. Because anybody who is flexible and is willing to adapt, he is always young, and he will always be in the need in the world. The world will always have opportunity for people who are flexible. Most important. So I'll give you a very good story. It will help you to pass on this message of adaptability or not willing to change. There was this couple who was watching television, and the husband felt that the wife is somewhere upset. So he thought, let me make my wife happy. He said, you know what, you seem to be stressed out. It seems your day was bad. Let me try to do something to make you happy. And he goes to the kitchen, and he makes a good coffee, and he brings chocolate chips and cookies, and he comes to wife. And the wife sees it and somehow says, he don't feel the excitement. He said, what did I miss to make you happy? He said, what if I don't want to be happy? Have you met those people who, no matter what you do, they don't want to change? If you find these people, I will tell you a shortcut word, 3-letter word, RUN. Run from them. Don't waste your time with them, because they will make you like that and your future is also doomed. Third most important thing is selfishness. Now, do I need to say anything in this topic? This is a very, very big topic, and I thought we can talk anything. But I'll just give a small story on it. The story is, there was this horse, and there was a donkey, and there was a guy he was the owner of this both, and he was trying to sift his city with some luggage. So he brought a lot of luggage, he brought water, he brought food, he brought his luggage, and everything he was trying to dump on the donkey. And donkey said to the horse, man, this is so much of luggage, I cannot hold it alone. Why don't you help me? The horse with tremendous pride, he said, come on, you are a donkey, you are supposed to carry all the load. I have pride, my horse, I'm just supposed to serve master and he will ride on me, that's all. The donkey, poor, what can he do? He was dragging this load, and somewhere after half the distance, the donkey died. The moment the donkey died, now the owner took out all the luggage from the donkey and put it in the horse. On top of it, he dragged this dead donkey also with the horse. Moral of the story, if you are selfish, end of the day you will pay double the price. So no point in having. So this 3 limiting attitude, remove it. And if you believe that you don't have any, then tell you, I have not removed all these 3 till now in my life. It's like this, the day you believe I have removed it, that is the day you actually got them in your life. I till now believe I am still fighting hard to remove all these 3: negative attitude, unwillingness to change, and selfishness. I am still fighting these 3 diseases. Because if I am not alert on these 3 diseases, chances are high I will be doomed. Fourth mistake which I am talking about right now, this is a mistake which if you are a compassionate leader, you will do it, I guarantee you. If you have love for people, you will do this mistake. You will say, what is that mistake? You know that mistake? Treating everybody same. That is a pain, I am telling you. I am in the business of people, and that too I lead voluntary organization. I don't pay salary to anybody. And I work with all backgrounds of people. And I want everybody to be happy. I want to spend my time with people. The problem, after reading a lot of books and meeting with a lot of people, I realized there is a very interesting principle known as Pareto principle. I don't know Pareto also, by the way, but this principle is still working. It says 80-20 rule. And that law says, all the work you do, 20% of the people are going to do the 80% of the work, and 80% people are going to do the 20% of the work. And the problem is to identify who is at 20 and who is at 80. And what I found, the biggest disaster most of the leaders do is, they spend their time with the 80%ers. Let me tell you, if you give the same respect to an eagle which you give to a turkey, you end up losing your eagles. It means if you find somebody who is a performer and you try to give him the same treatment which a non-performer is getting, you are set to doom your organization. And John Maxwell always says this line, whatever gets rewarded gets done. And I'll tell you a very small story on it. So there was this guy, he was in a boat. Smoothly he was eating his chocolate and peacefully he was enjoying the journey, and suddenly he sees there's a snake at the shore, and the snake is having a frog in his mouth, and he felt very sorry about it. He said, man, this frog is dying. So he somehow took out the frog from his mouth and gave him a chocolate. So, and he was happy again. He was eating his chocolate, and suddenly he sees in his sip there was knocking, and he saw what happened. And he sees now the snake is coming with 2 frogs. And he realized, I rewarded the wrong thing. So make sure if a leader, don't reward wrong things. I'll always tell folks, love everybody. If you're a leader, love everybody. But let people earn the respect from you. And I'll always tell this, respect is always earned on a tough ground. And the tough ground is when things are not moving, the leader make it happen. And this is an amazing mistake which you will do if you are a startup company organization, or if you're a big organization, or if you're a senior manager or a director of a company. Remember, this mistake is most deadly mistake which any leader can do. And I've done it few times. I try to make my non-performers happy, which is huge in number, and ended up losing my performers. Then one day I realized I have to understand this principle. Love everybody. I love everybody. I give my due attention to everybody, but I do not spend time. And I'll tell you one more secret. Non-performers want more time from you. Performers don't have time for you, by the way. So what happens? Because non-performers stay more with you, you automatically love them more, and the biggest disaster happens. So this mistake, I'm sure I've made it clarified, and very simply way I've explained to you. So don't babysit your troublemakers. The question for you right now, I'm telling you, be very honest. If you have a team of 10-15 people, let's say you're working in some company and you're a senior manager having 30 people, check out your list and see whom are you investing your time with, non-performers or performers. The biggest error people do is they invest their time on non-performers. From today on, I'll tell you, invest your time on performers, give more resource to them, give everything to them, and you see the magic in your team. Your performance will grow. And the last thing which I can talk about today, and I think beyond that we'll not take today, we'll take in the next session, concentrating on problem. This itself can be a big chapter, by the way, concentrating on problem. Most of the time, trust me, you start any project, what is the first thing you'll get? Problems. And if you start focusing on problem, the problem you will face is that there will be only problems. I'll tell you with this. The problem with most of the people is that they think that the problem is the problem. But the problem is that that is not the problem. So they think because that is a problem, they focus on the problem, which is not a problem. So finally they created a problem. Now that becomes a real problem. Now some of you are thinking, what did I say? Don't worry, that is a problem for you. Don't worry about it. So stop wasting your time and focusing on problem. Rather, I'll tell you, start focusing on solution. So I'll tell you, let's say I have big goals. I have a goal this year to make big organizations, 6 to 7 organizations which should be independent. I am working on a big goal. If you talk about problem, I immediately see problem. Oh, this organization of mine is not having enough leadership. Okay, this organization of mine is not having enough relationship. If I just focus on this problem, you know what will happen? Nothing will change. I changed my perspective. I said, forget this problem. Man, there's a solution. Eventually, this organization has to grow. So whatever resources is needed, I'll provide. See, perspective change, attitude change, behavior changed. Outcome will definitely change. Very, very important. Momentum. I'll give a very simple example. I thought of giving you a demonstration, but I forgot to bring it. Have you used car handbrake? You see, handbrakes can keep the car in an incline also static. But if in the running mode, if you apply a handbrake, car will not stop. What does it mean? If you're in momentum, nothing can stop you. So if you're in problem of life, let me tell you, the problem you're having is in your organization, there is no momentum. The leader says how to bring the momentum. So I tell you bad news, you have to bring the momentum. Don't wait for a team to bring the momentum. Team will not bring the momentum. Leader will bring the momentum, and then the team will come to the momentum. Very, very important. Most important thing, I can tell you, size of the problem cannot decide the solution. Size of a mind will decide the solution. So this is what I wanted to cover today, and this topic can be huge. Other 5 to 6 points I'm going to cover in part 2. So today what I've done is I've given you 5 simple points to focus on, and I'll take on the next session in January, around first week of January or mid of January we'll talk about, and we'll talk about the other 5 to 6 points. And with this 10 to 12 mistakes you can save in your life will be transformed. And before I log out from this talk today, I would encourage, click on the subscribe button if you have not subscribed yet. Why? Because we are the number 1 industry in leadership training. When I say number 1, I don't care about anything, because what I matter is if even one person is improved because of this, we are number 1. We don't compete with anybody. What I can tell you, we are the best place. To get these trainings in the world, I can assure you, I have invested more than $10,000 to learn this which I am teaching you free of cost. Just because it is free doesn't mean it doesn't have value. The value is decided by you. If you want to grow this, stay with us, subscribe to our channel, and I'll keep adding value to you, and I promise you 2020 of yours will be transformational, and someday we'll meet face to face and say, man, I'm glad that I'm part of Peak Impact Mentorship. I've improved my personality, I've improved my life, and trust me, that will be the happiest day of my life, because impacting people for a greater cause is what is the best happiness anybody can get. See you soon, sometime face to face, and if you have not, meet our mentorship team. Our mentorship team is across the globe. It doesn't matter which city you are in. You might be in India, you might be in US, you might be anywhere. And in India also, if you have any places, whether it is North India, East India, South or West, wherever you are, we are there. Personally, I have my own team in Bangalore. If you're in Bangalore, sometimes stop by to our, we meet on a weekly basis. Our gathering happens in Koramangala. If you're around, be there sometime face to face. I would be happy to meet you in person. And if I can add some more value to you, it will be great to us. Great talking to you. See you soon. Thank you and congratulations.